So, does this look familiar to any of you? Like, have you had this experience in the past couple of weeks? You're trying to get some work done, you're trying to get some school done, and if you've got kids at home, they're being Goonies in the background. I don't know about you, but I have pets, and so sometimes my dog tries to photobomb things. It's just different. It's not what we've been used to, right? We're doing school at home, we're doing work at home, we're communicating with family at a distance from home through the screen, like right here. It's been a little crazy, right? So this week, we're going to take a look at collaboration software, specifically Google Drive and Google Docs, because it's one of those things that makes working together with others at a distance in distributed work environments way easier. And a lot of you have probably already used a word processor. So if I asked you, like, what does a word processor do? What would you say? What does a word processor do? Go ahead, say it. I know you want to. You're going to say, it processes words. Bingo. Somebody already always says that. So word processor lets you do some editing. And I don't know if you're like me and you remember in the olden days where you actually had to type on a typewriter. Like I learned to type on a manual typewriter. I know that's like 1,000 years ago. And if you made a mistake, you were just screwed, right? You had to like either start over or try to line up the correction tape. None of it worked. It didn't look good, but it was a little classy. I actually have a manual typewriter, Smith Corona, from about 1935. That sucker weighs about 30 pounds. It's heavy. Anyhow, so much easier now with collaboration software. Word processing lets you edit and copy and paste and move things and highlight things and make things bold and insert pictures and just all kinds of really cool things. But the best part is if you're collaborating with somebody somewhere else, you don't have to like print the file and give it to them. You don't have to email something back and forth and end up with 400 versions of it. No way. You just share the document and you both can edit and away you go. So let's take a look at what we're going to do this week. And we'll start off with the checklist. Well, of course, this video right here is what we're going to do this week. But we'll start off with the checklist. And you should always start with the checklist. This is definitely your go-to spot here. And so this week, we're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to talk about copyright a little bit. We're going to talk about academic honesty and plagiarism. We're going to give you some resources. And one of the things I want you to look at is this idea of beyond working from home. So this is an article, and the article has a video embedded, and I highly recommend you watch the video. It'll be a little bit easier. But they've surveyed people, and they're trying to find out, like, how's this going to last? And I don't know about you guys, and I don't know where you work or, how that impacts you. But my son, who's about 32 years old, he works for a mortgage company down in Irvine. And they've basically just gave him, they've been working at home since March. And they just told him that you're going to work at home until at least September of next year. So at least for the next year, the entire office is working at home. They can do everything they need to do from where they are. So this has some really interesting implications that you ought to think about and that we'll talk about next week in Zoom probably. What does that mean for the nature of things? And have you ever tried to work at home like almost everybody has in the last 6 months? It's not as easy as it sounds, especially if you have kids at home or other responsibilities at home that you have to juggle. And what if your internet connection's not that great? And what if your computer's not that great? There's just all sorts of issues that make it troublesome. But there's also some really good advantages. You could be on Zoom and I could be in my pajama bottoms right now. Like, how would you even know, right? So I want you to think about some of the challenges, but also some of the benefits of this new paradigm that we find ourselves in. There's also an article here. Now we're going to dig into this idea of academic integrity and plagiarism and why it's at the core of what you do as a college student. Because the whole idea of being in college is that you're learning things and doing things and creating things based on what you've come across. You synthesize ideas, and there's a lot behind this idea of academic integrity. So I've got an article here from Cal State Northridge that's got a really nice chart. It's like, well, what you think it is and what it really is. And then they have a short video at the end of it that I think will be a little bit eye-opening for you. Then one of the things we want to do is we're going to start looking at this idea of evaluating sources, because there's so much information out there, and we're just going to dip our toe in the water this week with a really short assignment. But you should watch this video about evaluating sources for credibility. And the funny thing is, it's from a website called Schmoop that you may have actually heard of before. So they put together some really funny, entertaining videos, but it's got great, great information. And I think you'll enjoy watching it. This other video is kind of interesting. It's slightly annoying. It's a message of academic integrity. It was put together by a bunch of college students, and they dramatize this whole scene, but then they go into these 10 different ways of plagiarizing that you might be doing and not even realize that that's what's happening. And plagiarism is a big deal. Like, if you don't think it's a big deal, you need to understand that you can actually get kicked out of college for plagiarizing. Like, at a minimum, you can get a 0 on an assignment, and then you can get kicked out of a class. And if you keep doing it, you can get kicked out of the college. When you're in the workplace, this has impacts also, because, and don't think it's just like the little people that do this. Like, professional journalists and authors and lots of people, when they get caught plagiarizing, they get kicked out of their job. So the question is, what is plagiarizing? Well, that's what this video talks about. So I think it'll also give you some good information to work with. I listed a couple of resources here about using Google Drive and Google Docs. I'm not going in too deep because almost everybody at this point has used it a little bit. You have it connected to your college email account. So if you access your Google Drive from your college account, it's already all set up. And this first resource, Getting Started with Google Drive, is from Dottotech. I really like him. He's got a lot of good energy in his videos. He gives some really nice, useful, helpful tips. This happens to be an article, and he's got a video on getting started with Google Drive that's embedded in the article, but the article outlines some good things. So it's the best of both worlds. You can either watch the video or read the article or do both. And then one of my favorites is the GCF Learn tutorials, because literally you go down step by step and you can scan it and say, oh, how do I insert a picture into my document? And it'll show you how. You know, you can find a tutorial on it. And their tutorials are short and sweet, and they've often got good graphics and good videos. Now we're going to jump down into the do section, and I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up. So we have Zoom next week. So the sign up sheet's there, easy, just like last time. Put your name down where you want to go, where you're going to sign up for. The week 4 insights, let me jump back to the class, because this is going to be a little bit different. We ran into a bit of a technical glitch with Discord. That's not quite true. Discord works great. There's nothing wrong with it. What happened was we found out you can only have 500 channels per server, which, if it was just me, would be a piece of cake. I mean, I make a lot of channels, but I don't make that many channels. What happened was we had about 300 students register on our Discord server. Well, a lot of those students are in multiple classes. And as most of you know, you got a notes channel with your class account. So we had 300 students times 300 note channels, and maybe 100 or so of those had extra classes, you know, so another 100 or more notes channels. That's like 400 plus all the regular class channels. Anyhow, suffice to say, we're running out of channels. So I'm going to move this to Moodle, and I'm going to show you, this is a special kind of forum. So on the week 4 insights, this is called a Q&A forum. And I just wanted to test it out because I've never used this before. So y'all are kind of guinea pigs on this one. I apologize for that, but we'll see how it works. You can let me know. And so on week 4, you click on the, you have to click on the article first. You click on the post first. And it says, this is a Q&A forum. So in order to see the other responses, you have to hit reply. So when you hit reply, keep in mind the editing tools aren't there. So click on advanced. That will open up the editing tools for you, so you can do, you know, different things and highlight stuff and whatever you want to do, and type in your response. Specifically, what I'm looking for this week is this idea, like, what's the impact been for you on having to maybe work from home, or have family that works from home, maybe have kids that are learning at home. it definitely has had an impact on everybody, I think. So I'm curious what the impact has been and what's made it easier, what's challenging in terms of technology. Like, do you run into internet issues? Like, how does the tech help you either manage it or cause you problems? And then find one resource that talks about this, that talks about the change to employment, maybe the future of work, maybe the future of education. Find something that's been written in the last 6 months or a video that's been made in the last 6 months to share with us about that. So that's your insight assignment for the week. Let me back up to the main page. And then I'm going to keep the let's tweet going. It's the same form as last week, and it's pretty much the same assignment because every week you're supposed to tweet 3 or 4 things. And so I think this will be a good way to help you keep track of that, because every time you submit the form, it sends you an email with a copy of it. That way you've got a track of what you've turned in, and I can track what you've turned in, and it's pretty easy. So let's jump to the big assignment. Not that big. Okay, so click on assignment details. It'll open up for you. And what we're going to do this week is this thing called an article summary. Okay. And so the article summary is just what it says. You're already having to look for tech articles, right? Like, I'm already having you do that and share those. So find a recent article, and anytime you share anything about tech, it should be something within the last year. Like, it shouldn't be something from 10 years ago. Okay. It should be something very current. And so what you're going to do is you're going to find, evaluate, and summarize this information on a Google Doc. And read this really carefully because I go step by step, but here's the gist of it. So you're going to find an article, and this is really like a one-page thing, okay? Find something interesting. Make sure it's from a reliable source. Now, how do you know? How do you know if it's a reliable source? Well, you see this, read this first. I should probably put that one first. If you click on this article, you'll find or that link, you'll find an article from Cornell University. They're pretty reputable. They know what they're talking about. That's an Ivy League university. And these are some things you can look at to decide if your source is credible. Things like the author and the date of publication. You know, you're not going to find all of these things on every single thing that you read, but you should be able to assess a lot of them, okay? And so there's some really good things here, and it gives you some very good details. And like I said, we're just dipping our toe in the water this week. We're going to dive into this idea a little bit deeper as we go through the semester and add to our knowledge base here. But for this particular one of the things you have to do is assess this article. And so you find an article, it's from whatever, let's say it's from MIT Tech Review. Let's say it's written by Nicholas Negroponte. I only know that because he works at MIT. And so who's the author? So you can look him up, see what you can find out about him. Sometimes you just click the author's name on the article and it brings you to a short biography. See what you can find out. Do a Google search on the person. Date of publication, why is that a big deal? Well, if it's a 10-year-old article, it might not be relevant anymore. It might be interesting, it just might not be relevant. Who's the publisher? Well, MIT Tech Review, they're pretty reliable. MIT is a research institution. They've got a long history of researching things and providing reliable, credible information. Don't just say, though, something like, well, the New York Times wrote it, and so it must be reliable. Give a little more detail, like, why is the New York Times reliable? See if you can find out something about that. Let's see, a couple of other things. Is it objective? Like, you know, people write things for different reasons. Are they trying to convince you of something? Are they trying to sell you something? Or are they just sharing information? Can you tell by how it's written if it's objective? Anyhow, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this other than that, but read through, oops, let me back up then. Read through the article, that critically analyzing information sources, and use that criteria to determine if it's reputable. So what you're going to do is read the article, do a short summary, like 1-paragraph summary. And don't tell me, well, the article said this and the article said that, and this is the other thing the article said. Okay, in your own words, kind of just give me what it's about. What's the main idea, what the article's about. And then for the rest of it, answer these questions. And it might take a paragraph or two to do this. How does this technology that's being talked about impact you or people you know? What implications do you see for the future with this? How does this relate to what you already know about? So try to find something that you're interested in that connects to what you already know. Don't cop out on that one and say, well, it doesn't relate at all. Pretty much everything can relate some way if you look at it hard enough. And then, based on the information on the critically analyzing information sources page, what criteria did you use to determine if the source was reputable? So don't just say the author was a nice guy. Okay, tell us about him. What's his credentials? Let's say he's writing on, I don't know, solar energy. That's a technology, right? But let's say he's got a degree in astrophysics. Well, okay, that might be the sun, so that might not be a good example. I don't know. Let's say he has a degree in underwater basket weaving. Okay, like he might have a degree, maybe he even has a PhD in basket weaving. He can get highly specialized. But that doesn't mean he knows anything about the article he's writing. So what's his credibility? Okay. What about the institution? How current is it? What's the date of publication? Provide concrete details if you can. Don't make big generalizations. That's where people get hung up, actually, is on the generalizations. So that's a big part of the grade. And the rest of it is kind of just jumping through the hoops. Can you use a word processor? Can you create a file name? Can you publish it? Can you do some settings? On Google Docs, super easy. If you don't know how to do something, Google search or use the help menu and then say, how do I spell check in Google Docs? Something will come up. There's probably a video for that. Finally, on this, you have to do a citation, and those are a headache. Like, believe me, I know those are a headache. However, there's a couple of websites that make it a lot easier. So, EasyBib, super easy. I've discovered this in graduate school, actually, a really long time ago. These guys have been around for a while. So let me find, let's see. Oh, you know what? Working from home. Let's do a quick search. I'm going to grab this article that's just on the top. So let's go to that article. Maybe. There we go. I'm going to grab the link from the article. And I'm going to go back over to EasyBib and say it's from a website. It is really super easy. And the other one on there too, Citation Machine, very similar. Does the same sort of thing. So you type in your article, confirm this is the one, I want to cite it. Now, this is going to say, here's what we found. It's telling you all the stuff it found, but it can't find the publisher. Okay, it did pretty good though. And so it's going to bring you to this form. So let's go back and look at this article. Let's see if we can find an author, and can we find a publisher? I keep going down. Sometimes it's at the bottom. It says Global Workplace Analytics. They keep citing people from that. Let's see, going down. I get a feeling that this Kate Lister is our person, because it says if you want to talk to this person. So then you come back here. Oops, that's not her last name. Global Workplace Analytics is probably the publisher. Let's look though. Let's go to the about. Oh, yep, there we go. Kate Lister. This is her website. And we can read this to find out about her, by the way. So I'm just going to say that it's this Global Workplace Analytics is the publisher. That's the name of the website, and it's also the publisher. Gives the date that it was published. Complete the citation. Oh, let's see. Does it want more stuff? And you always, the one thing I didn't point out is always make sure it includes the link. And there's your citation. So copy the citation, and then you can just paste it into your report. I don't care actually if it's MLA, APA, Chicago, like you pick it. And don't worry about organizing your paper that way, as long as your paper's readable. But whatever you pick, be consistent. So like, don't do some citations in MLA and some citations in APA. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it too much. An English class will teach you that someday. But either one of these two sites is really good. So that part's just jumping through the hoops. All right. How to submit it. So I always try to be as clear as possible. You're going to do two things. First, you're going to share it to Twitter. Hooray, there's one of your tweets for the week, right? Make sure you have the hashtag in there. Give a little bit of a description. And then remember how you had to copy the link to the tweets for the Let's Tweet assignment? Well, copy the link, and then you're going to go back to your document and paste the link to the tweet in the bottom of your document. That way I can go directly to it. You don't have to cite it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Just copy it in, okay? Once you've done that, you're going to download it as a PDF, which is one of the steps up above. It talks about doing that up here. You're going to download it as a PDF. You're going to come back to this assignment, and then you're going to add submission, and then you're going to upload it. And so this will get you to the right place, and then save your changes. Once you've done that, you got it done, okay? So that's what we're going to go through a lot this week. If you have any questions, post it to the Discord help desk channel. I check that all the time, so I'll be able to respond there, and I'm looking forward to what you share.